Hello and welcome back. I am basically Hawkins, and I think this is going to be a busy week for all of us One Piece card game enthusiasts because we already have a lot of information to talk about based on the live stream that was up today from the One Piece card game developers. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of info dropped in it, but I'm going to start with what I think is the most exciting thing, which is the full starter deck reveals of the Red Straw Hat Pirate starter deck and the Purple Beast Pirate starter deck. I'm going to start this video talking about the red starter deck, and I'm going to just treat it like all of this information is new so that we can have all of the information consolidated in one specific video. So I'm going to break down the whole starter deck, talk about each card, the effects, and my thoughts. So let's begin. So first off, we have obviously the red Luffy leader card, the 5,000 power striker style card. He has 5 life, which means you start with 5 life cards at the beginning of your turn. And his effect is activate main once per turn, grant up to one of your rested Dawn cards to one of your characters or this leader. So that basically means normally you can attach Dawn to characters and leader cards if they're active, if they haven't already been used. But his ability is very nice. It allows you to attach a Dawn to a character after that Dawn has already been used for some other purpose. So that's really nice and really useful, and you can do that once per turn with his effect. We've played around with this card before, and it is vital. I mean, like, this is a good leader card. We don't know about a lot of leader cards yet, but we know that this effect is great. You're going to use it practically every turn. It's really nice. You get to just, basically use a Dawn twice. What's not to like? So yes, that's the leader card. The next card we have is the Ussop card. This is a 2-cost, 2,000 power shooter style card, and his effect is Dawn ×2, so you attach 2 Dawn to him. When attacking, so this effect would activate once you've declared an attack, your opponent cannot activate a blocker of 5,000 or higher power characters during this battle. So basically, he'd have 2 Dawn attached to him, and then when he attacks, any blocker on your opponent's side of the field that has 5,000 or higher power cannot activate. So that 2 Dawn is already going to put that Ussop to 4,000 power. So this effect is very interesting because it basically means that he can't be blocked. It's worded in such a way that you could do specific things to get a block off with him, but basically anything that has enough power naturally to block him wouldn't be allowed to block him. Which I think is very interesting. Very, it's tricky. It's a little tricksy card, which is exactly what Ussop is like. It's not a very straightforward battle style attack. It's a little more like you gotta be a little finicky in order to get a block off of him. And this is very interesting. He actually has a trigger. So if this card were to be hit in your life cards, you would be allowed to play it right then and there. So they hit your leader, which took a life, and this was the card that was that life card. You would be allowed to then just right away play this card and get an extra character on the field right away, which means that he'd be ready to go and attack on your turn. That's very interesting. That's the first time we've seen a character card that has a trigger, especially a trigger that allows you to just play him. That is very interesting and cool, and that makes Ussop actually a very good card in my opinion. The next card we have is a vanilla Karoo. I say vanilla, he does have a little effect. He has a counter, but he is a 1-cost, 3,000 power striker, and he has a counter plus 1,000 effect. So basically, if he's in your hand and your opponent is attacking something, you can discard him to give some character or your leader an extra 1,000 for that battle. So this Karoo is actually very, very functional. The 1 cost makes him a very, very strong early game card. I've played a couple games where I had a bunch of Karoos in my hand, and I was able to just walk through my opponent for a while because you could just play Karoo for a Dawn. The next turn you have multiple Dawn. Why not play a bunch of Karoos and just get to swing in the turn after that because you have all these cards on the field. And 3,000 power, I mean, that's a pretty good starting point considering that requires attaching 2 Dawn to make it 5,000, which is usually the amount of power you need to start hitting your opponent's leader. Karoo's a good card. I didn't even think it had that counter effect, but knowing that it has that just makes it that much more functional. So Karoo is really nice. The next card we have is a fantastic card. This is Sanji, a 2-cost, 4,000 power striker style card, and his effect is Dawn X2, Dawn times 2, so when he has 2 Dawn attached to him, this character gains Rush. I've talked about this card before, but just in case you haven't seen any of my other videos, this card's really good and really aggressive because he costs 2, and he would potentially get Rush the turn that he has played. So he's an early game card. He doesn't cost that much to play, and it only requires attaching 2 Dawn to give him Rush. So imagine you went first and you have 3 Dawn on your field. It's like the second turn. You can play him for 2. You can attach that extra active Dawn you have, and you've got that Luffy leader card that attaches a rested Dawn. That would give him the 2 Dawn he needs to go right away and attack with Rush. So this is an early game hard hitter. That 2 Dawn would put him from 4,000 to 6,000 power for your turn. He's just a great card to have. He's going to be a staple. I've said it before, he's probably going to be a staple in Red for a while, especially with the Brook that we'll talk about later. And he starts with 4 copies of this in your starter decks. So that's one thing I haven't talked about so far. Some cards you'll have 4 copies of, some cards you'll have 2 copies of. Aside from the leader thus far, everything that I've talked about has 4 copies in the deck. And I'll mention it if there's only 2 copies of a card in the deck. But so far, everything except for the leader, Luffy, there are 4 copies of, including this Sanji. The next card we have to talk about is Jinbei, a Straw Hat very recently, which makes it exciting that he's in the Straw Hat deck because he is a Straw Hat. And frankly, I think we need more fan art that has Jinbei in the Straw Hat crew. We have all the fan art from back in the day where it's like Sanji, Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Ussop, and then we throw in Chopper and Robin and Frankie. Let's get more with some Jinbei in it, yeah? Anyway, that's a tangent. This Jinbei is a 3-cost, 5,000 power striker style card, and his effect is Dawn times 1. So when he's got 1 Dawn attached to him, when attacking, so this effect would activate when he's attacking. For this turn, give plus 1,000 power to up to one of your leaders or characters other than this one. So this is a great card, a very useful effect because he basically, the Dawn 1 is not that hardcore of a requirement, but he basically gets to buff somebody else, which is, a Dawn gives you plus 1,000, so he basically gets an extra 1,000 from a Dawn, putting him up to 6,000 power. And then he attacks, and he goes like, hey, you over there, you get an extra 1,000 too for the turn, which is great. That's a nice a complementary effect to a lot of the things. What we're going to be learning from the red deck is that it's very much a buff deck. Like, you get a buff, you get a buff, you over there get buffed up. Let's use these Dawn to buff. Various colors, I think, are going to have different applications of the Dawn. But I think red is going to be the most straightforward, like, let's use this Dawn to get strong and to hit as fast as possible. So this Jinbei is great. It's got 4 copies, and on to the next one. The next card we have to talk about is the Chopper card, the Tony Chopper card, a 1-cost, 1,000 power striker style card, and he is a blocker. A blocker is a card that would allow you to, on your opponent's turn when they're attacking something, whether it be one of your characters or your leader, you can utilize him to take the hit, basically. And he's obviously very weak. He's a 1,000 power, so there's a good chance that he would get crushed by that attack. But this is a very useful effect for, like, preserving life. Say you have an opponent's card that is attacking that could do multiple hits to your life. Then throwing a blocker in the way of that attack would save you all that trouble. I know it hurts to see a Chopper get KO'd, but that is his purpose, is to take the hits. So that's him. He's got 4 copies, and he is going to be very useful. He's a 1-cost, so he doesn't cost much, so he's an early game card too. And the next card we have to talk about is Nami. Of course, Nami is a Straw Hat, and she is a 1-cost, 1,000 power special style attacker, whatever that may mean. And her effect is activate main. Once per turn, equip one of your rested Dawn to your leader or one of your characters. So this Nami is very interesting because her purpose isn't really to do the attacking. She's a card, she obviously doesn't cost much, and she's a card that you basically want to put on the field and then use that effect every turn. It's the same effect as the leader card, of the Luffy leader card. So you could potentially be utilizing multiple rested Dawn per turn. I mean, think about this. She only costs 1. You could play her and then immediately use that Dawn that you just used to play her and give that to somebody else. So this card is going to be really good. Just imagine if you had multiple Namis on the field. Like, say you had 3 Namis plus your Luffy leader card. That is 4 separate rested Dawn that you'd be able to equip to things. It allows you to basically double your Dawn usage. It's fantastic. It's a really good card. It's very threatening. She also has a counter of plus 1,000. So if your opponent's attacking something and you just need a quick buff, you can discard her from your hand and give something an extra 1,000 power. A nice little assist. This card's crazy. It's really good. I'm sure it will be something that you want to kill off if your opponent has it on the field as quickly as possible. The next card we have is just a basic Nico Robin. Nico Robin is a 3-cost, 5,000 power cerebral type. So that's the first time we've seen that typing. She's a thinker card. She doesn't really have any special effects. She's a vanilla as well, but she does have that counter plus 1,000 effect, so you can discard it from your hand to buff something on your field if need be. She's definitely got some power though, so she's something that you want to throw down just if you're trying to do some basic attacking. She's a vanilla, but that doesn't make her good. She's pretty interesting. And the next card we have is another vanilla, Nefertari Vivi, a 2-cost 4,000 power, so a little cheaper, a little weaker, slasher style attack. She's also a vanilla, and she's got that counter plus 1,000. There's a bunch of vanillas in this deck, but you know, it's a starter deck. We're early. Not everything can have some crazy effects. Some things are just there to swing at your opponent. And she's a cheap card. She's got some okay power. You know, I think she's pretty good early game attacker. It only requires attaching 1 Dawn to her for her to start being able to hurt opponent's leaders. The leaders we've seen so far, I suppose. And yeah, there's 4 copies of her. She's got that counter plus 1,000, so she's useful as well in your hand. So that's really nice. The next card we have is also a vanilla, a little more costly and a little more powerful. This is Frankie, a 4-cost, 6,000 power striker style card that also has that counter plus 1,000 effect. So yeah, we've got a little line here where Vivi is a 2-cost, 4,000 power. Robin is a 3-cost, 5,000 power. Frankie is a 4-cost, 6,000 power. So yeah, it's just, these are our vanillas. These are our cards that are just for playing and spraying, you know, just for getting out there and hitting. We have all of these effects from various cards in the red starter deck to attach breasted Dawns to things. So it's definitely the strategy to attach Dawn to these various vanillas to get them buffed up so that they're hard to block and hard to, you know, to kill and stuff. Also, it's canon now that Frankie is a better fighter than Robin. For anybody who's been arguing about who's the middle strongest person, Frankie is probably more powerful than Robin. I'm not sure if people are really fighting about that. I think I've seen some people fighting about that, but yeah, Frankie's stronger. There you go. It's right there in the cards. The next card we have is actually a card that we only have 2 copies of in the starter deck, and that is the Brook card. And frankly, this is a card that you want to have 4 copies of. Once you're allowed to manipulate decks and you know, switch things around, you probably want to run 4 Brook because this card is really good. This is a 2-cost 3,000 power slasher style card. Its on-play effect is grant up to 2 of your rested Dawn to one of your characters or leader, which is a crazy effect considering he's a 2-cost card, which means you can play him for 2 and then immediately use those 2 Dawn and put them on something else to give them a 2,000 buff. That's a crazy effect. That's really good. Think about that Sanji card that requires 2 Dawn to get Rush. You know, you give him those 2 Dawn, he's got Rush now, and you got a Brook on the field. Also, Brook has a 2,000 power counter effect. So from your hand, he can give 2,000 buff to something. This Brook is really, really good. Probably one of the best cards in the red starter deck. And as a Brook fan, I'm very happy about that. And, you know, there's a reason they only give you 2. It's because it's really good. And you're going to want to have 4 of them, a play set of them for whatever red decks you make in the future. So you have to buy 2 starter decks. Oh, look at that. They just doubled their money. But yeah, it's a good card. It's really good. Another really good card that you only get 2 copies of because they want to be able to double their sales is the Luffy character card. Luffy character is a 5-cost, 6,000 power striker style card with Rush. So yeah, you don't even have to do anything for him to get Rush. You pay the 5 cost to put him on the field, he's rushing, he's hitting right away. And he also has a secondary effect, just for the heck of it, Dawn 2, so you attach 2 Dawn to him. When attacking, your opponent cannot activate blocker for this battle. So potentially he is a 6,000 power or 8,000 power if you have 2 Dawn attached to him. Rush card, so he can attack the turn he's played, and he can't be blocked. So yeah, really, really good. Probably going to want 4 of them, so why don't you just go ahead and buy 2 red starter decks. The next card we have, another card that's really good that you're going to probably want 4 of, oh, this is almost seems like they're doing this on purpose, is the Zoro character card, a 3-cost, 5,000 power slasher style card, whose effect is Dawn 1, so you attach 1 Dawn to him. This character gains 1,000 power. So this is a pretty interesting effect because you attach a Dawn to him, that Dawn gives him 1,000, and then his effect kicks in, giving him another 1,000. So 1 Dawn would buff him from 5,000 to 7,000, making him a very strong card right away. And very interesting, that effect doesn't end on your turn. It doesn't say it's just your turn. So when it goes to your opponent's side, you may, or your opponent's turn, you may not get the buff from the Dawn explicitly, but you do still get Zoro's effect buff. So he would be 6,000 power on your opponent's turn, making him that much harder to kill after he's attacked and been rested. So that makes him something very, it makes him a lot more difficult to attack and destroy. And then on your turn, it makes him a lot more powerful to attack and destroy things on your opponent's side of the field. He's the big, strong boy of this deck, I think. He's definitely the one that is worth buffing. You know, say your opponent has something really, really powerful, something like 9,000 damage. He's probably the easiest card to get up to that, to be able to kill that. The next card we have is our first event card of the red starter deck. It is a 1-cost event card called Guard Point, which, you know, it's got that cute little fluffy chopper image. It's a chopper effect basically, but you know, you can use it with any red card. And its effect is counter. So you would utilize this effect on your opponent's turn when they're attacking you for 1 cost. Give up to one of your leaders or characters for this battle power plus 3,000. So that's our biggest counter buff we've seen so far. You basically say your opponent's swinging in at something and it's a really strong swing, but you really want to save whatever card. You would play this card from your hand on your opponent's turn for 1 cost and buff that thing up 3,000 extra. So it's a really strong, really nice event card, nice for countering. This card also has a trigger effect, which is one of your leader or characters for this turn gets power plus 1,000. So if this card were hit in your life cards, you could activate the trigger effect, giving something on your field plus 1,000 power for the whole turn, for your opponent's whole turn, not just the battle. So it might help preserve the strength of something for, you know, it gives something 1,000 power in that for the whole rest of your turn, giving it the ability to, you know, just make it harder to kill. So that makes this a very nice card to have because it's good both to have in your hand and in your life cards. Trigger effects are really nice. In Digimon, you know, you have security effects, which, you know, there are whole decks built around the effects that activate from your security. And so this card seems like one of those cards that would be really nice to have in your life cards at this point. The next event card we have is Gomogomo no Jet Pistol. This is an event card that costs 4 to utilize. And its effect, which you would play on your own turn, is KO one of your opponent's characters with 6,000 or lower power. So this is the first event card we've seen that is basically just play it to kill something on your opponent's side of the field. This is a very straightforward effect, and it's really good. This is a really nice event card to have. And it has a trigger that basically allows you to activate that effect anyway. So if your opponent hits your leader, does a damage to your life, and then this card is the card that is revealed, just kill something on your opponent's side of the field with 6,000 or lower power. That's really good. That's really strong and very straightforward. It's a very straightforward effect. So that's really nice to have. The next card we have is another event card called Diablo Jambe, which is a Sanji attack, obviously, and that is a 1-cost that says, on main, choose one of your leaders or characters with Straw Hat Crew trait. During this turn, when that leader or character attacks your opponent cannot activate blocker. So it's just basically a cheap little event card that you can throw down to make one of your characters or leader unblockable. Yeah, that's really good, you know, especially if you're trying to go in for the win. It's just a nice way to, you know, just make your attacks especially effective. And it has the trigger effect, KO one of your opponent's 3 cost or lower characters with blocker. So this is clearly a very anti-blocker event card. You would basically, you know, your opponent hits your life, this card is revealed, and you get to just take out one of their cheap blockers. You know, that chopper is a 1 cost blocker, so if your opponent's playing a red starter deck, that would get rid of that kind of a card. So this is definitely a good event card to have to minimize blockers. And then finally, we have the stage card of the red starter deck, the Thousand Sunny card. The stage card is a card that you would play, and then it would just stay out there for the rest of the game. And you'd be able to use its effect every turn, basically. So the Thousand Sunny is a 2 cost that has the effect Activate Main, so activate it during your main phase, rest this card, and then for this turn, power plus 1000 to one of your leaders or characters with the trait Straw Hat Crew. So this is just a nice little extra buff to throw out there. Once you put it on the field, you don't have to pay that cost anymore, so you put it out there, and then each of your turns, you just rest it to give something an extra 1000. You know, just to make that difference. You know, sometimes you got 4,000, you need 5,000, you can rest this, pump it up to 5,000, now you can start swinging. And it's for the whole turn, which is really nice. So potentially if you were able to attack multiple times or something like that, you know, it'd be a nice way to give a buff, and it's basically a free buff once you've played it, because you get to use it every turn. That's the beauty of the stage cards, is once they're out there, and you get to just keep using that effect. So that is the red starter deck. Clearly, based on everything we see here, the main effect that we're noticing is going to be using Rested Dawn. With the Luffy and the Brook and the Nami cards, Rested Dawn is clearly, you know, it's a mechanic that's going to be probably very unique to Red, is getting to use Dawn basically twice, and especially for the purposes of buffing, because the cards where you have effects based on Dawn being attached usually have to do with attacking in some way, whether it's Sanji getting Rush, or Zoro getting his extra 1000 power, or Jinbei giving something else an extra 1000 power. That seems to be the theme of Red, at least the red starter deck that we're seeing so far, which is get strong and hit as fast as possible. So that's kind of like Digimon. It's definitely the most straightforward color, probably the one that's much more, as the kids say, unga bunga. You just hit, get strong, hit, get strong. And yeah, it seems like it's going to be really fun. It's the deck that we know the most about so far. We've had a lot of red starter deck cards for a while, so we've had time to get kind of familiar with it, but now we have the full thing, which is just so exciting. And we also have the full purple starter deck, which I'll make another video about that and my thoughts of that, because purple definitely is much more of a thinking man's deck. There's a lot more math required, a lot more looking into the future required. So we'll talk about that in a future video. But for now, the red starter deck is out there and ready to play. I'll make sure to get it on the full thing on the tabletop simulator as soon as possible. And that's all I got for you today. Like, comment, subscribe, all the normal stuff, and have a good one.